Welcome to F the Rules, the place where we dare to challenge the status quo and question the societal norms that perpetuate harmful biases and stereotypes. We don't shy away from the controversial and the uncomfortable. We lean into it. Today, we are diving into a topic that's as complex as it is controversial: misogyny in the Black community. But here's the twist. We're taking a satirical lens to this subject. Yes, you heard right. We're going to use humor to shed light on an issue that's anything but funny. Why? Because sometimes the absurdity of a situation is best highlighted through satire. So buckle up and get ready for a deep dive into the world of misguided misogyny, where misplaced aggression meets internet fame, where ignorance is celebrated, and where the real victims are the very women these men claim to protect. Spoiler alert, it's a roller coaster ride of irony and contradiction. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Ever wondered why some Black men, instead of facing their true oppressors, choose to belittle Black women? Welcome to a realm where irony and absurdity collide. A place where some Black men, instead of standing up against systemic oppression, turn their frustrations and insecurities towards Black women. It's a strange phenomenon, isn't it? Let's dive into the deep end of this murky pool, shall we? Here we have figures like the Angryman of YouTube, the so-called simp, Kevin Samuels, proponents of the red pill philosophy, and the Hodge Twins. They've all got one thing in common. They're using Black women as scapegoats for their own shortcomings, all in a bid for likes and internet fame. It's a pity, really. But let's not forget about the Black women who have been the bedrock of homes, holding down the fort when fathers were unjustly locked up by the government. These women, who've stood strong through thick and thin, are now the targets of misplaced aggression and hate. The most surprising part? This trend of belittling one's own women isn't common among other races. It's a unique and not particularly flattering feature of this particular group. Now, take a moment to consider the likes of Candace Owens, a tool in the hands of white supremacy, who has made a career out of disparaging her own. It's a sad state of affairs when one's own people are used as weapons against them. And then there are the passport bros, traveling the world, spreading their hatred and ignorance far and wide. But let's not forget the new age gossip queens, more interested in tearing down Black women than in facing their own insecurities. This misogynoir, this hatred of Black women, seems to be rooted in the legacy of slavery, which produced weak Black men who, instead of rising against their oppressors, oppress their women. A twisted cycle of oppression and hate. So, instead of recognizing their strength and resilience, these men prefer to play the blame game. Interesting, isn't it? Ever noticed how some folks weaponize Black women for likes and views on social media? It's a veritable circus, with everyone juggling stereotypes and stoking fires of division for their moment in the spotlight. Let's take a stroll down this sideshow alley. First up, we have the Angryman channel, where the main act seems to be a perpetual rage against Black women. Then there's Kevin Samuels, a self-styled relationship expert who often seems more interested in belittling women than building bridges. And let's not forget about the Hodge Twins, who've turned their platform into a stage for outdated and harmful narratives. But here's the punchline. All this negativity, all this stereotyping, it's just for show. It's theater, a performance to get likes, views, and a false sense of validation. But the cost of this performance is real. It's damaging, perpetuating harmful narratives that bleed into everyday life. And what's the script they're all reading from? It's the same tired story of the ratchet Black woman, an offensive caricature that's as far from reality as the earth from the sun. Here's a newsflash. The majority of Black women are not the ratchet stereotype these channels peddle. They are mothers, daughters, sisters, and friends. They are educators, entrepreneurs, artists, and scientists. They are the bedrock of their communities, the glue that holds families together. But why let reality get in the way of a good viral video, right? After all, it's easier to traffic in stereotypes than to challenge them. It's easier to tear down than to build up. But just because it's easy doesn't make it right. So the next time you see someone trying to weaponize Black women for likes, remember the social media circus for what it is. A spectacle that distracts from the truth, a sideshow that trades dignity for likes, and a performance that, at its core, is as hollow as it is harmful. If only these folks knew that the majority of families don't have these ratchet women they speak of. But hey, why let reality get in the way of a good viral video, right? Let's not forget about the Candace Owens of the world, who serve as useful tools for white supremacy. Now, we don't mean to single out Candace, but she's a prime example of a peculiar phenomenon. Some black women, rather than challenging the harmful stereotypes about their own race, become mouthpieces for them. It's almost like a twisted form of Stockholm Syndrome, where the captives start sympathizing with their captors. They buy into the narrative that black men are inherently violent, that black women are naturally ratchet, and that the black community is inherently dysfunctional. It's a narrative that's been peddled by white supremacists for centuries, and yet here we have black women willingly perpetuating it. It's an irony that would be hilarious if it wasn't so harmful. Imagine being the very thing you've been convinced to despise. It's like a mouse cheering for the cat. It's like a fish voting for the fisherman. It's like a turkey campaigning for Thanksgiving. Now, we don't know about you, but we think there's something deeply wrong with that picture. It's not just about self-hatred. It's about internalizing and regurgitating the very oppression you're supposed to be fighting against. It's about undermining your own community for the sake of likes, shares, and retweets. But here's the thing. These harmful narratives are just that. Narratives. They're not the reality of the black community. They're not the reality of black women. They're not the reality of black men. They're gross exaggerations, caricatures designed to dehumanize and degrade. Most black women are not the ratchet stereotypes these people talk about. Most black men are not the violent thugs they're painted as. Most black families are not the dysfunctional units they're made out to be. So, to the Candace Owens of the world, we say this: you're not doing yourself any favors by peddling these harmful narratives. You're not empowering yourself by disempowering your community. You're not uplifting yourself by tearing others down. We can only hope that one day they'll realize they're not doing themselves any favors by perpetuating these harmful narratives. Ever heard of the passport bros? Or noticed how men have become the new gossip queens? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a wild ride into the realm of the ridiculous. Let's start with these so-called passport bros. Now, these gentlemen are a peculiar breed who decided that the best way to deal with issues within their community is to, wait for it, fly across oceans to escape black women. Yes, you heard that right. They've turned their backs on the very women who have been the bedrock of their homes for centuries. Instead of addressing the root causes of their issues and working towards solutions, they're jetting off to foreign lands in search of greener pastures. It's as if they believe they can outrun their problems by changing their geographical location. But as the saying goes, wherever you go, there you are. Now on to our next spectacle, men as the new gossip queens. It's a phenomenon that's been on a meteoric rise, and it's as baffling as it is amusing. Suddenly, it's become fashionable for men to engage in the kind of gossip and petty squabbles previously associated with the stereotype of a group of teenage girls at a sleepover. They're swapping conspiracy theories about black women faster than you can say clickbait, all in a bid to rack up likes and views. It's a modern-day gladiatorial arena where the weapon of choice is words, and black women are the unfortunate targets. But let's take a moment to appreciate the irony here. These men, who claim to be alpha and strong, are engaging in behavior they'd traditionally looked down upon. It's as if they've traded in their swords for sewing needles, their shields for hand mirrors. They're more interested in stoking the flames of controversy than in building bridges of understanding and respect. Guess it's easier to run away and gossip than to address real issues head-on, huh? It's a sad reality, but hopefully one day, they'll realize that real strength lies in unity, respect, and love, not in divisiveness, disrespect, and hate. Did you know that the legacy of slavery has produced weak black men who suppress their women? Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a sweeping generalization of all black men. Not at all, but it's an unfortunate reality that the echoes of slavery have created a distorted image of black masculinity, one that feels the need to exert dominance over black women as a misguided assertion of power. Let's take a trip down history lane. Slavery stripped black men of their power and autonomy. In the face of such brutal oppression, some found a twisted sense of control in suppressing their women. It was a desperate grasp at reclaiming a power that was violently taken from them. Fast forward to today, and we see a disturbing continuation of this pattern. But instead of physical suppression, it's now a verbal and digital one. We see it in YouTube channels like Angryman and on social media where black women are being weaponized for likes and shares. The irony of this is almost laughable if it weren't so damaging. Here we have black men, victims of oppression themselves, becoming oppressors in their own right. They're mimicking the power dynamics of their past slave masters, and the target of this misguided aggression? Black women. It's a cycle of oppression that needs to be broken. Because the reality is, most black families are not the ratchet caricatures these channels make them out to be. Black women have always been the bedrock of our communities, standing strong when the government locked up our fathers and continuing to do so today. So next time you see a negative portrayal of black women, remember, it's not just wrong, it's absurd. It's time to challenge these portrayals and change the narrative. Because black women deserve better, and we all have a part to play in making that happen.